Discover the incredible journey of a lazy boy, how 30 days transformed his life forever. Jake sat in his garage, the familiar hum of the gaming console filling the dusty air. He didn't bother with the shadows of disappointment that lingered just beyond the door. Disappointment from his father, a war veteran whose once bright aspirations were now tainted by regret. And then there was his mother, a nurse whose long hours hid the strain in her eyes. They called him the lazy boy, but deep down, Jake wanted more. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky with vibrant hues, Jake aimlessly scrolled through social media. Hours melted away as images of epic video game tournaments and champion runners flashed before his eyes. Suddenly, one post caught his attention, a charity marathon. Runners of all ages, their faces alight with determination, crowned a banner that read, "Run for Change." It struck a chord. Pictures of his mother, beaming with pride after chasing her dreams, collided with his father's disappointed glances. In a moment of impulsive clarity, he signed up. Maybe this would spark the change he needed, but the next morning revealed harsh realities. Training felt like trying to navigate a new level in a game he struggled, huffing and puffing like he'd just lost a life. Friends mocked him, calling him a traitor to gaming. They didn't know that each laugh felt like another miss on a critical combo. But his mother's worried eyes haunted him. His father, silent and watchful, became a painful reminder of failure. Day by day, the marathon felt less like a victory and more like another level that was simply too hard to beat. On day 10, fate intervened with a soul-crushing cramp that left him propelling down into despair. He collapsed, the weight of self-doubt crashing down like an invisible block. In that moment, every game over from his past echoed in his mind. Just when surrender felt imminent, a community leader, inspired by hope and warmth, visited his garage. They shared heartfelt words about family and resilience, injecting fresh air into his suffocating thoughts. A flicker ignited within him, a whisper of determination where there had been silence. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the days crawled toward the marathon, Jake found unexpected support in new friends within the community. They were people like him, looking to break free from the confines of their pasts. Racing down the sidewalks, the wind in his face, he began to reclaim lost pieces of himself, yet lingering doubts threatened to pull him back. Had he made any real progress? Would he fail and become just another cautionary tale, the boy forever trapped in his father's shadow? Standing at the edge of this emotional abyss, one fact remained: the marathon was looming ever closer, a test unlike any he had faced before. Would he rise and finally prove them wrong, or remain the lazy boy forever? Jake woke up on the morning of day 15, the sunlight creeping through the cracks in his garage door. He felt different, but uncertain if it was a good different. He shoved the doubts aside, lacing up his worn-out sneakers with newfound determination. The race was pulling at his heart, whispering promises he desperately wanted to believe. With each step during his morning run, the voices from the past, his friends' mockery, his father's silence began to fade slightly. Instead, a rhythm settled within him, the sound of his feet hitting the pavement syncing with his heartbeat. It was freeing. A reminder that he was still alive, still fighting. He saw familiar faces along the route, neighbors who had taken notice of his efforts. Their nods and smiles built a wall against the negativity. Each morning felt less like a chore and more like a mission. And with every inch he ran, he felt something rise within him, a strength that had been dormant for too long. Eventually, he reached the park, a hub of life and laughter. The community had gathered to exercise together, stretching and warming up in preparation for their own running sessions. Jake hesitated at the edge, his heart pounding against his chest like a drum. "Hey, Jake!" called out a girl from the group, waving him over. "Join us. We've all been where you are. Her sincerity wrapped around him like a cozy blanket, easing the chill of his insecurities. Jake crossed the distance, feeling the warmth of companionship. As they all stretched together, he realized how silly he had been to think that he would face this challenge alone. He exchanged shy smiles and little jokes with the others, each laugh reinforcing his commitment. As the weeks passed, surprises came flooding in. His mother, upon discovering his burst of enthusiasm, shared stories of how she found strength in her own struggles, and they bonded over the shared desire for something greater. The more she spoke, the more Jake understood that the doubt wasn't just about running, it was about finding his place in the world, settling down from the chaotic noise of self-judgment. But behind the warmth of these connections, shadows still loomed. Jake found himself weighing his efforts against his vision. The marathon was nearly upon him, and the closer it got, the more the pressure mounted. Thoughts of failure crept back in like an uninvited guest. What if they all saw him trip, giving them a reason to call him the lazy boy forever? On the night before the race, he glanced at his dad's old running shoes, still tucked away in a corner of the garage. Those shoes had run countless miles. They'd seen struggle and triumph. Jake reached down and picked them up. He could feel the history pulse through them, tangible and real. Would he step into those shoes tomorrow, or would he forge his own path? The answers to those questions danced in his mind, swirling as if they had a life of their own. As he weighed his options, he found himself torn not just between success and failure but between staying the boy who shunned challenges and becoming the man who faced them head-on. Just as he was about to decide on where to draw the line, a message pinged on his phone. It was from one of his new running friends. "Can't wait to see you at the race. Remember, it's not just about winning, it's about showing up. We're in it together." Jake's heart swelled, but it was the uncertainty that gripped him as the sun dipped below the horizon. Would this race be his rebirth or yet another missed opportunity? Tomorrow held everything, and as he closed his eyes that night, he knew he was on the edge of something monumental. But could he step beyond fear and actually leap into it? The morning dawned with a cool breeze and skies painted in soft pastels. Jake's heart raced as he sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the running shoes nestled beside his dad's old pair. The moment felt surreal. This wasn't just any race, it was a chance to rewrite his story. He took a deep breath, filling his lungs with determination, and strapped on his dad's shoes. With each step toward the park, he felt the weight of the past lifting off his shoulders. It wasn't just about the race anymore, but about the journey he had taken to get here. He was shedding layers of fear and doubt that had constrained him for so long. The rhythm of his heartbeat quickened with excitement as he nearly skipped down the street. When he arrived, the park buzzed with energy. Friends and fellow runners were stretching, laughing, and building anticipation. As he scanned the crowd, Jake noticed a few familiar faces that had cheered him on during his training, people who had become key parts of his journey. They were not just spectators but fellow warriors who understood the battle against oneself. "Jake!" shouted the girl from the other day, her voice bright beneath the morning sun. "You made it." She beamed at him, and in that moment, all the worries he had been holding on to seemed to dissolve. Jake joined the group, feeling a sense of camaraderie wash over him. They shared warm-ups, each stretch and exercise connecting them like a team. The nervous energy sparked a need to push past limits, and Jake found himself smiling and bantering as if this was a regular day. As the race began, he lined up with the others, adrenaline pumping through his veins. His head spun with everything he needed to remember: pace, breathing, form. But as the gun went off, the chaos of his thoughts quieted, replaced by the simple act of running. It felt liberating to break free from all the self-defeating talk. Feet pounding against the pavement, he settled into a rhythm. Memories of his father filled his mind, all those moments spent discussing dreams and fears, the pressure he had felt to prove himself. Today, he wasn't running to meet anyone else's expectations but to honor his own journey. Mile after mile, Jake drew energy from the encouragement around him. Fellow runners offered high fives and cheers. There was something electric in the air, a collective determination that held them together. Each cheer propelled him forward. He found himself passing people he once thought were so far ahead, but as he approached the final stretch, fatigue crept in. A heaviness settled in his legs, pulling him down. Doubts began to slink back into his mind. What if he faltered? What if he were to stop? But then another thought broke through. Just keep moving. He whispered to himself, channeling the support he felt during his training. He remembered those nods and smiles from his neighbors, his mom's stories, and the community behind him. He wasn't just running against the clock, he was racing for something far more profound, a future. Crossing the finish line, Jake could hardly believe it. The noise of the crowd erupted around him, cheers ringing in his ears. He felt strong, invincible. But as he glanced back, he noticed a boy standing just outside the finish area, looking uncertain and scared to step up. The boy reminded him of his own struggles, the boy who hid from challenges. Jake's heart raced for a different reason now. Would he reach out, encourage that boy? He could be a source of inspiration, just like his friends had been for him. His moment of clarity surged within him. If he could face his fears, perhaps he could help others do the same. As he turned with purpose, a new journey sparked to life in Jake. But just as he approached the boy, a voice called out from behind. "Jake, wait. You need to see this." With a heart full of resolve and curiosity, he spun around to face whatever surprise awaited him. What could it possibly be? Jake turned to see a familiar face cutting through the crowd, a whirlwind of excitement. It was Sarah, her curls bouncing with each step as she approached. She had a look that screamed urgency, her eyes wide with something akin to disbelief or anticipation. "Jake, you have to come with me. You won't believe what just happened," she said, barely able to contain herself. The thrill of the race blended with the unknown that lingered just beyond where he stood. As curiosity got the better of him, he glanced back at the boy who had been standing there moments before. He hesitated, knowing he wanted to encourage him, to give him the push Jake had needed not too long ago. But the magnetic pull of Sarah's energy tugged at him, and the promise of something unexpected was hard to resist. "What is it?" Jake asked, trying to keep pace with her quick steps as she led him away from the finish line and toward a nearby cluster of people. The atmosphere buzzed with whispered conversations and glances filled with excitement. "Look!" Sarah gestured to a small stage set up with a banner that read Community Heroes. Several individuals stood on the stage, their faces lit up with joy. Jake recognized a few of them, volunteers from local charities, neighbors who had hosted the block parties, people who had been there through tough times in their community. It was a celebration, highlighting those who made a difference. "This is amazing," Jake said, feeling a swell of pride as he joined the crowd. Everyone seemed captivated, ears tuned to the stories being told, celebrating the impact these heroes had in their lives. "But why did you want me to see this?" "Because," she replied, her voice low but enthusiastic, "they're doing something special. They want to reward the people who work together to support each other, especially those who kept training, like you. They've decided to recognize athletes who inspired others through their journey. And you were nominated." His heart raced anew. "Me? Really?" It felt surreal, like he was dreaming all over again. His journey wasn't just his anymore, it had become part of something larger. He could hardly comprehend it, how sharing his struggles could lead to others finding strength. Sarah nodded, eyes bright. "You've inspired so many, Jake. The way you've turned toward the light instead of letting fear hold you back, people notice that." Just then, one of the organizers stepped up to the mic, calling out the names of those who were being honored. Jake's name echoed through the park, and the crowd erupted into cheers. He could feel a warm flush of gratitude rise in him, disbelief still knitting his brows together. As he walked up to the stage, he spotted the boy he had noticed earlier, finally breaking from the shadows. His timid gaze followed Jake, an unmistakable glimmer of hope and wonder awakening in his eyes. Jake paused for a second, feeling a rush of warmth. In this moment, he was overcome. It wasn't about winning or losing, it was about showing others they could dare to run their own race, no matter how daunting it seemed. Before he knew it, he was speaking into the microphone, words tumbling out. I didn't come here to win, I came here to find a new part of myself. If I can do it, so can you. The cheers swelled, echoing through the park as he stepped down, nodding to the boy who looked just a bit braver now. Yet, even as he embraced this newfound role, Jake felt a whisper of uncertainty. What did this recognition mean for him? What was next on this journey? As he stepped off that stage, that same voice called out to him again. Jake! You're not going to believe this either. With a heart pounding and thoughts swirling, he turned to face Sarah, curious and slightly worried about what was coming next. What more lay ahead? Jake, I just got word from the organizers. They want you to share your story at the community fair next month, Sarah exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Jake blinked. Share his story. Just when he thought he was processing life as it was now, a chance to stand in front of even more people loomed ahead. Wait, what? Are you serious? Absolutely. They want you to inspire others just like you inspired them. Think about it. You could touch so many lives. Jake felt a mix of exhilaration and anxiety shiver through him. Standing in front of people had never been a comfortable thing, but the prospect of influencing others kept pushing him forward. He swallowed hard, contemplating the responsibility that came with their belief in him. I don't know, Sarah, he said slowly, his mind racing. What if I mess it up? What if I can't say anything that matters? Jake, you already matter. Just be yourself. Just tell them what you've been through. People want to hear authentic stories. Her enthusiasm wrapped around him, warming the doubts that tangled within his heart. He couldn't shake the feeling of inadequacy, but part of him ignited at the idea that maybe he could inspire someone the way he had been inspired. Before he could answer, the crowd began to disperse, and the boy from earlier approached. Jake recognized the determination in his eyes. Can I talk to you? He asked, his voice slightly shaky but filled with newfound courage. Jake nodded, his heart swelling a little more as he remembered the moment he spotted that same flicker of hope in the boy's eyes. Not long ago, he had been that boy. I just want to say your speech was amazing. The boy continued, his hands clasped nervously. You made me think maybe I could try running, too. Those words hit Jake like a pulse of electricity. You can absolutely do it. He took a step closer, leaning in with sincerity. It's not about winning, it's about running your own race and believing in yourself. Just give it a shot. The boy's face brightened with determination. I will. I promise. After they talked a bit longer, Jake watched the boy rejoin the group, a little more confident in his stride. He turned back to Sarah, feeling the weight of realization settle gently within him. Okay, I'll do it. I'll share my story. Sarah's ecstatic squeal filled the air, and the joy of it was contagious. As they walked together, Jake couldn't shake the knot of apprehension connected to the upcoming fair. He was about to step into the spotlight, but maybe it wasn't just about him. Maybe this would help individuals like that boy find their own strength and courage. I need to think about what to say, he mused aloud. Oh, I've got something for that. Sarah reached into her bag, tossing him a bright yellow notebook. Jot down your thoughts and ideas. You might just find your core message in there. Jake caught it, the weight of the book feeling both reassuring and intimidating. What would he write? His journey was still raw, sprawled across the pages of his own experiences. As he flipped through the blank pages, it hit him. In this moment, his story was still forming, and he was part of something bigger that could inspire others to overcome their struggles. Just as they reached the edge of the crowd, he heard a commotion nearby. Curiosity piqued, Jake turned to see a group gathering around another stage. What's happening over there? He asked, urging Sarah to join him as they weaved back through the crowd. A hush fell over the people, anticipation thrumming in the air. They stood on tiptoes, whispers of excitement swept through the gathering. It felt like something monumental was about to unfold, and curiosity burned in Jake's chest. What could possibly be happening now? Let's check it out, Sarah urged, gripping Jake's hand as they pushed ahead. As they reached the front, the announcer's voice boomed over the crowd, snapping the air between them. "We have an incredible surprise announcement to make, and trust me, you won't want to miss this." Jake exchanged a quick glance with Sarah, both hearts racing. What could it be? Amidst the rising tension, Jake wondered if this new twist would change everything once again, unforeseen challenges or perhaps an unexpected opportunity. As the announcer's voice crackled through the air, excitement pulsed among the crowd. Jake felt himself leaning forward, straining to catch every word. It was electrifying, the kind of energy that made the hairs on his neck stand on end. Something big was coming, and he could feel it in his bones. "We have a special guest today," the announcer continued, "a person whose journey has inspired countless others. Please welcome our local champion, Isabel Carrington." Jake exchanged a wide-eyed look with Sarah. Isabel Carrington. He remembered her from the local news, a runner renowned for her inspiring story of determination and triumph. Her battles with injuries and setbacks made headlines, but it was her resilience, the way she refused to give up, that captivated the community. The crowd erupted into cheers as a tall figure stepped on stage. Isabel glowed with an energy that was contagious. Her warm smile spread like sunshine, and Jake felt his heart race for a completely different reason now. What would she say? Isabel waved, her presence commanding but approachable. "Thank you all for being here. I have something special to share with you today." Jake's hands tightened around the notebook Sarah had given him, contemplating how he would ever muster the courage to stand on that stage himself. Isabel's voice cut through his thoughts, soothing yet powerful. She shared snippets of her journey, her failures, and the moments she almost quit but chose to fight instead. Each word struck a chord deep within him, a reminder of his own struggles, doubts and fears swirling like a storm. "I remember standing at the starting line and wondering if I could do it," she said, her eyes scanning the crowd. "Fear is real, but so is the power to rise above it. The key is to take one step, no matter how small. Action, my friends, is what changes our lives." Jake felt a swell of hope. It was as if Isabel was speaking directly to him. Each word ignited a fire in his heart, shifting something deep within. He remembered that boy's hopeful face and the shared dreams for a better future. That he glanced down at the notebook in his hands. He needed to write, he needed to capture this moment, this urge to embrace his truth. The fear was still there, but so was determination. He couldn't just share his story, he needed to connect with others, just like Isabel was doing. As her speech unfolded, Jake started jotting down fierce phrases, jotting down snippets of courage, vulnerability, and the unwavering belief that they all had the power to change. For the first time, he felt the words flow easily, as if they were dancing right out of his soul. When the applause erupted at the end of Isabel's speech, Jake stood stock still. She hadn't just inspired him, she had pushed him to see the possibility of his own story, a narrative worth sharing. "Are you okay?" Sarah whispered, gently nudging his arm. He took a deep breath, feeling lighter. "Yeah, I think I just got my message. It's all about taking that first step." Before he could elaborate on his thought, the announcer interrupted again, amplifying the energy around them. "And now, we have one more surprise for you. A special contest for some of our community members." Jake's heart thumped loudly at the prospect. He turned to Sarah, his excitement bursting forward. "What do you think it is? A running contest? A talent show?" As they eagerly listened, anticipation wrapped around them tighter. "The winner of this contest will get an opportunity to present their own story on this very stage next month." Jake's breath caught in his throat. This was it. This could be his moment too. But the question loomed large in his chest: was he ready to step into that spotlight? The thought sent a thrill through him as he exchanged another glance with Sarah, each of them buzzing with possibility. Would he muster the courage to share not just his struggles, but the victories that awaited? The moment of truth was approaching fast, and Jake felt like something extraordinary was about to unfold. But what if he failed? Could he really inspire others? With everything swirling in his mind, the stakes had suddenly intensified, and now Jake faced the most vital realization of all. Was he ready to take that leap? The crowd buzzed with excitement as Jake's heart hammered in his chest. He could practically feel the energy filling the air, wrapping around him like a warm embrace. Presenting his story, standing in front of everyone. How was he going to make that leap? "Jake, you're really thinking about this, aren't you?" Sarah asked, her voice coaxing him back to the moment. He nodded, glancing at the people around them, their faces a mix of eagerness and apprehension. Just like him, Isabel was still at the forefront of his mind. Her powerful words lingered, igniting his own inner voice. What if he could inspire others the way she had inspired him today? It was a thrilling thought. "I've got to figure out what I want to say," he murmured, clutching his notebook tighter. "It's not just about the contest. It's about everything. My struggles, my dreams, what I've learned." His palms were sweaty, but there was clarity forming. "Then write it down," Sarah urged, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "You've got your notebook. Just write what comes to you." Summoning courage, Jake flipped open the notebook. Blank pages beckoned like the starting line of a race. He jotted down memories, moments that felt like stepping stones on a path he was only beginning to recognize. Each thought flowed out, tethered to an emotion that steadied him. As he wrote, the world around him faded. He wasn't just a spectator anymore, he was part of this contest now. He could see himself on that stage, trembling, yet pouring his heart out, hoping to connect. "Courage isn't the absence of fear," he scribbled. "It's taking that leap despite it." People began signing up for the contest, each step fueling the air with momentum. Jake watched as members of the community declared their readiness to share their own stories. He could see the excitement wrapped around their expressions, each one determined to show their true selves. "What if I mess up?" Jake said, his grip tightening around the pen. "What if you don't?" Sarah countered, nudging his arm. A small smile emerged as he contemplated that possibility. But thoughts of failure still crawled into the edges of his mind. What if his story wasn't worth sharing? What if no one cared? But then he remembered Isabel's words about taking small steps. Each person who stood up to share would have once felt that fear. Maybe it was worth it. "I need to do this, Sarah," he said, voice steadier now. "I need to face the fear. It's part of my story." The moment was changing, electrifying. Jake could sense the shift inside him. Hope was replacing doubt, blossoming like wildflowers in spring. "Exactly." She smiled, her confidence lifting him higher. Just as Jake began to fill the pages with fragments of himself, a hush fell over the crowd. The announcer returned to the stage, his voice booming through the microphone once more. "Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to kick off our community contest. Who will take the first step to share their story?" His heart raced, and Jake felt a rush of adrenaline. This was it. He had to act before his courage waned. He could feel the weight of his dreams pulling him forward. He stood, gripping the notebook tight. Was he truly ready? With the spotlight shimmering ahead, Jake took a deep breath, preparing to step forward into something that could change his life forever. Would he rise up, or would fear silence him? The question loomed, and in that moment, Jake took the first step. Jake's heart pounded like a drum in his chest, reverberating in his ears as he stepped into the arena of light. The spotlight felt blinding, but it wasn't just the sudden brilliance that made him squint. It was the intense gaze of the crowd, their anticipation hanging like a thick fog in the air. He swallowed hard, every part of him wanting to dive back into the safety of his seat. But then he remembered why he stood there. He remembered Isabel's empowering speech, and how it had lit a fire in him that he couldn't ignore. This was his chance to share his story, to connect with people just like him who yearned for understanding. Breathe, he whispered to himself, willing his legs not to shake. As he reached the microphone stand, he could see familiar faces, friends and neighbors, people he'd known for years. Each expression seemed to carry a piece of his past, a thread in the tapestry of his life. With every blink, he recalled moments of laughter, pain, and growth. "Hey everyone," he started, his voice slightly wavering, yet reaching out to the crowd. It was shaky, but it resonated. "I'm Jake." The words floated into silence, a small spark of confidence filling him. "I grew up dreaming about being someone special, but a lot of times, I felt ordinary, like I was just floating through life," he continued, remembering those days when he had been too afraid to try. "I didn't think my story mattered, but then I started listening to the stories of others." He felt a rush of warmth as he glanced at Sarah, who stood in the back, nodding encouragingly. That simple gesture bolstered him. He took another deep breath, diving deeper into his narrative. "There were struggles, times of self-doubt where I wanted to give up. But I learned that every rejection carved out space for growth, that each failure hid inside a lesson waiting to be uncovered." The crowd began to lean in, the energy shifting from mere curiosity to rising engagement. Jake could sense their support, the way they breathed along with him. He could see them relating, the shared bond of feeling scared yet daring to stand up. And I realized his eyes sparkled with a newly felt courage. The stories we tell about ourselves are often our greatest weapons. They can either chain us or liberate us. And here, right now, I want to break free. A rush of adrenaline coursed through him. He was carving out a space for his truth, for all the likes and loves and losses that made him, him. With one final push, he said, "I believe we all have the power to face our fears. It's hard. But if we let our voices be heard, if we share our journeys, we can inspire each other. Let us tell our stories." The crowd erupted in applause, energized by his words. A wave of relief washed over him as he stumbled back, exhilarated. He'd done it. But even in that moment of triumph, a new fear crept up. What next? Would he be able to share more deeply, to connect on an even more vulnerable level? As he stepped away from the microphone, his chest heaving with both joy and uncertainty, another voice caught his attention. It was a young girl at the front, her eyes wide and hopeful, waiting for her turn to speak. And just like that, Jake felt a shift, a reminder that this was only the beginning. What did her story hold? Would she step up to the challenge? With renewed determination, Jake smiled at the girl, wondering if the courage he had just found could spark something incredible in her, too. Jake's heart raced again, but this time it felt different. It wasn't just the adrenaline of sharing his own story, it was the weight of anticipation resting on the little girl's shoulders. She stood there, clutching her notebook like a lifeline, her wide eyes glowing with both excitement and fear. He took a step back and nodded at her, encouraging her silently. She took a deep breath, and it seemed to echo in the silence that had settled over the crowd. That single breath carried with it all the hopes and worries that had drowned her for so long. Here she was, standing in front of an audience, ready to unfold her truth. Hi, she began, her voice barely above a whisper, but he could already sense the magic brewing. "My name is Lily." The sound of her name in the air thrilled him. She was taking her first courageous step, and he felt that familiar warmth in his chest. I don't know if my story is special," but her confidence flickered. Jake wished he could reach out and pull her closer, sharing the safety he had just discovered. "There were days when I felt invisible. Like, really invisible. Like no one could see me." The crowd stirred, and Jake could see others responding to the vulnerability in her words. She shifted her weight, the notebook crumpling slightly under her fingers. "But then, I found a group of friends who liked me just as I am. They listened to my jokes, even the silly ones. They saw me." Laughter rippled through the audience, an inviting thread connecting them all. "That made me feel, I don't know, special, I guess. It's funny, right? I thought I was nothing, and then I learned that just showing up as myself made a difference." Her eyes darted around the room, meeting Jake S. for a brief second. In that moment, he felt a surge of pride for her. Sometimes it's hard to believe in myself, especially when the world feels so big and I feel so small. But I found that if I tell my story, maybe just maybe, it could help someone else feel less alone. She took a deep breath, locking eyes with several listeners, and Jake could see a shift within her. Hers was a story of hope and recognition, of breaking through the shadows where self-doubt lingered. As she spoke, a collective warmth radiated from the audience. It was a bond woven from shared experiences, laughter, and overcoming insecurities. Jake could feel the energy rise, a palpable connection enveloping the arena. He thought back to the words he had just shared moments before. The power of storytelling truly wasn't contained to one person, it was an unbroken chain, each voice adding to the chorus of resilience. When she finally finished, the applause erupted once more, this time louder, more heartfelt. The crowd stood, cheers and claps cascading toward Lily like a wave of support. Jake smiled, knowing they had rallied around her, embracing her courage. As surprised tears brimmed in Lily's eyes, she looked over to Jake. He could feel her gratitude, a silent acknowledgement that he had passed the torch of courage. But as the applause faded and the next speaker approached the microphone, Jake's mind raced with thoughts. Why had it taken so long for him to find his own voice? What hidden stories lay untold around him? He couldn't help but wonder what other lives this gathering might touch. Would they each discover the beauty of vulnerability? Or would some remain too afraid, lost in their fears? With those questions swirling in his mind, he felt a stirring within him. This journey had only just started, and he felt an insatiable hunger for more connection. What would it take for him to dig even deeper? How could he help others shine as brightly as Lily had tonight? As he stood there, feeling a sense of unity enveloping him, he realized that the next step was not just for him or the next speakers. It was a collective journey, a shared adventure waiting to unfold. The days passed after that momentous event with a renewed energy that pulsed through Jake. Community spirit thrived, fueled by all the stories being told. After the contest, Jake never looked back. He connected with more runners, dedicated himself to training, but more importantly, he took every opportunity to share his voice. He joined local workshops, telling his story at schools and community events, feeling a swell of purpose that drove him each day. Every time he stood before an audience, he transformed. No longer the lazy boy trapped in the shadows, he was becoming a beacon of hope, a living testament to what it meant to confront fear and strive for change. His own struggles reminded him of the power of perseverance, and now he was grateful to be the one sharing that warmth. One evening, at the weekly community run, Sarah caught him mid-laughter as they shared stories, trying to catch their breath. "Remember when you could barely go a mile?" she teased, and Jake let out a laugh that bounced off the walls of the park. The bond they had built through this journey felt like a well-worn shoe, comfortable and reassuring. "And look at me now!" he exclaimed, feeling a tidal wave of joy swell within him. "A marathon is just around the corner, and it has my name on it." Jake felt lighter with each mile, his heart pushing him as fiercely as his legs did. As the grand day approached, Jake found himself reflecting on everything: his father, his mother, his friends, and all those he had met along the way. He had called his father not long ago, sharing his progress. For the first time, Jake heard proud warmth in that familiar voice. "I always believed you had it in you, kid. I'm rooting for you." In turn, Jake called up his mom, sharing tales of how he began to run with kids from the community, encouraging them to join. Her laughter echoed in his ears, a sweet sound of encouragement. "That's my boy. You're making a difference, Jake." The night before the marathon, Jake laid out his gear, the vibrant colors almost glowing in the soft light. He slipped into his dad's old running shoes one last time, feeling grounded by their history. "I'll make you proud. I'll make us proud," he promised quietly to the shoes, remembering the man who had laid the foundation for his aspirations. Morning arrived, draping itself in hues of hope. As Jake stood at the start line, heart pounding with excitement rather than fear, he scanned the crowd, taking in the sea of faces filled with a mix of adrenaline, joy, and anticipation. Sarah was there, giving him a thumbs up. Nearby, the familiar boy, who had once hidden in the shadows and grown into a confident runner through his encouragement, stood ready. They exchanged nods, a silent pact of support. When the gun went off, all noise faded into the background. He was in his zone, fueled by all the voices that had supported him, those cheers echoing as a mantra. Mile after mile, he felt lighter, his spirit soaring in unison with the rhythm of his feet. Drenched in exhilaration, he crossed the finish line, the cheers flooding his ears. Tears pricked his eyes not from exhaustion, but from overwhelming joy and a sense of belonging. As he raised his arms in triumph, embracing the warmth of the crowd, he glanced around. There was his father, beaming with pride. And his mother, tears streaming down her face but filled with pure happiness. The familiar faces of friends surrounded him, a web of interconnected stories all celebrating their own journeys. The journey was indeed far from over, but this moment, this singular point of validation, connection, and triumph filled Jake's heart to the brim. He remembered Lily, the little girl who had found courage and strength to share her story. She popped into his mind not just as a reminder of where he had begun, but of how important it was to lift others up. Jake took a deep breath, looking around at his newfound family, knowing this was just the beginning. He could inspire others to share their voices and stories, just as others had for him. He would continue to motivate those who longed to break free from their own confines. After all, it was through the collective experience of vulnerability and strength that true transformation blossomed. With the scent of victory in his lungs and his heart beating in rhythm with the pulse of community, Jake felt ready for the next race, whatever it might be. He was Jake, a boy who had transformed under the weight of his own expectations and emerged victorious, redefining what it meant to run his own race. Now more than ever, he understood one profound truth: the stories we share today can change lives tomorrow. And in that spirit, with a heart full of gratitude and a mind swirling with possibilities, Jake took a step forward into the bright horizon, ready to embrace whatever came next. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, comment your reactions and feelings about the ending, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.